A black gas had already seeped into his eyes and wrapped around his red sleeve blade, causing the crimson blade to be stained with a terrifying black gas. This slash was like the gates of hell opening wide. An endless aura of despair hovered above the blade. Wherever it passed, the bright and scorching stellar energy was extinguished, and the precious sword in Zhang Yuanfeng's hand shattered with a loud bang. The way of Avicii slashed out 3 times. The terrifying slash that came from the infernal hell beheaded Zhang Yuanfeng. However, the strange thing was that no matter if it was Zhang Yuanfeng's body or his head, not a single drop of blood spilled. It was as if all the blood had been sucked clean by Chu Xiu's strange slash. After putting the sword back into the sheath, Chu Xiu's hand that was holding the sword was still trembling slightly. The power of the glazed golden thread goo in his body was constantly suppressing the backlash of the 3 blades of Avicii, causing the black gas in Chu Xiu's eyes to gradually dissipate. Not only were the members of the Zhang clan stunned, but even the Fire Slave and the Wolf King felt a chill run down their spines. The Fire Slave and the Wolf King were both experienced and knowledgeable, especially after joining the Blue Dragon Society. They had killed a lot of people and seen a lot of things. They had seen all kinds of strange martial arts, but it was rare to see such an evil and terrifying slash like Chu Xiu's. No, it should be said that they had never seen such a terrifying slash. The people of Jianghu gave Chu Xiu the nickname of Blood Demon. Now it seemed that Chu Xiu's slash was worthy of the word demon. What are you waiting for? The earlier we kill, the earlier we can call it a day. Chu Xiu said and directly attacked the Zhang family's warriors. The Fire Slave and the Wolf King also reacted at this time and quickly took action. It was 3 against 7, but in fact, Chu Xiu's side directly crushed their opponents. In Chu Xiu's view, the strength of the Zhang family's warriors was even inferior to the Yu family's internal aura realm warriors. Except for Zhang Yuanfeng, there was no one who could fight. Powerful skills were important, but skills were not the whole of combat power. These Zhang family's warriors had too little combat experience. The Zhang family had eaten too much over the years, causing the Zhang family's warriors to have very little combat experience, and their combat power was very weak. In less than a quarter of an hour, 4 of the Zhang family's 7 internal aura realm warriors were killed by Chu Xiu, leaving only 3 who were still struggling. But at this moment, suddenly there was a shout from outside, "Have mercy!" The person who ran in was Zhang Tianqi, and he also brought 3 older internal aura realm warriors. Hearing this, Chu Xiu and the other 2 stopped subconsciously and looked at Zhang Tianqi, not knowing what he was doing. Among the 3 people behind Zhang Tianqi, the oldest internal aura realm warrior stood up and said to Chu Xiu and the others, "You 3, I'm Zhang Weiqi, the great elder of the Zhang family in Daoist Commandery. I'm not afraid to say it out loud, but this matter is actually a misunderstanding. We promised the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery to integrate into our Zhang family of Daoist Commandery. In fact, it was a trap. Before this, we had already contacted the 3 internal aura realm warriors of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery and successfully bribed them. As long as the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery migrated to Daoist Commandery, we could cooperate from inside and outside and completely swallow the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. But we were afraid that if too many people knew about this matter, they would give themselves away, so we didn't tell the juniors. We waited until the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery had completely settled down, and when they were not vigilant, we made our move. But who would have thought that these juniors would go behind our backs and find you to kill the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery, ruining our plan? Speaking up to this point, Zhang Weiqi even glared at Zhang Tianqi, which made Zhang Tianqi immediately lower his head in shame. In fact, this matter couldn't be entirely blamed on them. They could only blame the elders of the Zhang family for acting too realistically, causing the other Zhang family members to really think that they were senile and muddle-headed, so they took the initiative to hire the Blue Dragon Society to kill them. At this time, there were still 3 survivors of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. One of them walked directly to the Zhang family of Daoist Commandery, causing the other two to glare angrily at him and at the same time feel sad. There was actually a traitor on their side. This way, even if there weren't assassins from the Blue Dragon Society, they would still be dead once they reached Daoist Commandery. As for the Zhang family of Daoist Commandery, they were even more helpless. Originally, they had a good plan, and they could swallow the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery without losing a single person. But now, the two internal Aura Realm martial artists that they had bribed had both died at the hands of the Blue Dragon Society. This was equivalent to losing two internal Aura Realm martial artists. Chu Xiu secretly shook his head. This Zhang family really knew how to play. One thought that he could take advantage of them, while the other pretended to be the one being taken advantage of. In fact, they were scheming against the other. Previously, he had some doubts. How could the Zhang family of Daoist Commandery be so idiotic? How could they do something like inviting a wolf into their house? Even if they were really senile and muddle-headed, to this extent, they should have replaced the Zhang family with someone else. Now, Chu Xiu and the others finally understood the reason. Everything was just a secret plot by the Zhang family of Daoist Commandery. It was just that the plot was a little too realistic, and they actually included their own people. This thing belongs to my Zhang family. Why should we leave it to your Blue Dragon Society? He had already paid the Blue Dragon Society, but he knew that he wouldn't be able to get it back. However, he couldn't give the Zhang clan's items to them. The Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery was a direct descendant of the Zhang clan. This time, the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery was mainly interested in the wealth and treasures in the hands of the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery. After all, the wealth and resources could be used by them, and the warriors of the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery still had to get rid of those who were disobedient and stubborn. Chu Xiu sneered. Breaking the rules? If you didn't interfere, after killing the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery, the things they brought would naturally be ours. Now that you want to keep these people alive, you naturally have to leave the things behind. Is this rule enough? Zhang Weiqi said in a deep voice, if your Blue Dragon Society says this, then it's a bit unreasonable. We have already given you the commission for killing people, and now you want some extra income? Moreover, your Blue Dragon Society didn't have this rule before. Chu Xiu unsheathed the red sleeve blade in his hand and said indifferently, there wasn't such a rule before, but since I said it, there will naturally be one. Seeing that Chu Xiu actually unsheathed his blade, Zhang Weiqi's expression suddenly changed. What does your Blue Dragon Society mean by this? Do you want to do this to us? Do you not care about the reputation of the Blue Dragon Society? Being an assassin also required integrity. Leaking information about one's employer without permission or doing something like this was a big taboo. It was fine to do this once or twice or even more, but if it was done repeatedly and your reputation was completely spread, who would come looking for you to kill people? You might as well not be an assassin and directly become a bandit. The fire slave in the back also said in a low voice, Brother Chu, the rules of the Blue Dragon Society indeed do not allow us to attack our employer. If the branch lord finds out, I'm afraid we won't have a good time. Hearing the fire slave say this, Zhang Weiqi immediately let out a sigh of relief. If it was only this assassin in front of him who had evil thoughts after seeing the money, then it would be fine. However, he was afraid that the entire Blue Dragon Society was like this, and he would be out of luck. However, on the other side, Chu Xiu sneered and said, the Blue Dragon Society does not allow us to attack our employer, but don't forget, they just said that our mission has been completed. Since that's the case, then they are not our employer. The Blue Dragon Society's rules only say that we are not allowed to kill our employer, but it doesn't say that we can't temporarily act as a bandit, right? The two of you, this is a family's wealth and resources. Even if the three of us divide it equally, it will still be a lot. Don't worry about the branch lord, such a small matter won't reach his ears. Moreover, do you think that with our current status in the branch, the branch lord will punish us because of such a small matter? The fire slave and the wolf king looked at each other. What Chu Xiu said made sense. They were the first assassins to join the Heavenly Sin branch and had been in the Heavenly Sin branch for more than 2 years. They understood the branch lord's character very well. Although they were supposed to obey the Blue Dragon Society's rules before obeying the Heavenly Sin branch's rules, in the branch lord's eyes, as long as they listened to him, they could violate the Blue Dragon Society's rules. As long as it didn't spread to the headquarters, who would know? As a result, the three of them looked at Zhang Weiqi and the others with killing intent. Seeing this scene, Zhang Weiqi's expression became extremely ugly. The other party had already revealed their killing intent. Even if he was prepared to hand over the things, he reckoned that these assassins from the Blue Dragon Society wouldn't let him go. Run! Split up and run! Zhang Weiqi didn't have any intention of resisting. Although he hadn't fought with Chu Xiu and the others, he had seen Zhang Yuanfeng's decapitated corpse. One had to know that although the Zhang family of Mount Tai County was powerful, the Zhang family's main inheritance was still the Zhang family of Linzhong County. Zhang Yuanfeng's strength was definitely not weak. Therefore, the Zhang family of Mount Tai County had secretly schemed and bribed the other party to kill Zhang Yuanfeng in a sneak attack. But now, these three assassins from the Blue Dragon Society actually fought 3 against 8 and killed Zhang Yuanfeng so easily. If they didn't run, how could they fight? Moreover, Zhang Weiqi was old and didn't pay much attention to the gossip in the underworld. Otherwise, he would have been able to recognize Chu Xiu's identity from his mask. Facing a powerhouse who could step on the Longhu list, even if he knew that the other party wanted to kill him, he could only pinch his nose and accept it. Fire slave, you're the fastest. Go after the others. Don't let anyone go. Wolf King, kill the Inner Aura Realm martial artists with me. After giving the order, Chu Xiu and Wolf King immediately attacked. Like tigers entering a flock of sheep, the other party couldn't resist their attacks at all. Zhang Weiqi's strength when he was young was still passable, but now that he was over 70 years old, his vital energy and blood were extremely weak. In just a few moves, Chu Xiu had sent his weapon flying. Then, he was struck in the chest by the great purple sun palm imprint. In an instant, the little vital energy and blood in his body had been completely burned away. During the slaughter, Zhang Tianqi saw that Zhang Weiqi was killed by Chu Xiu. His eyes revealed endless regret. Many people in the Zhang family, including Zhang Tianqi's father, thought that Zhang Weiqi and the other elders were old and muddle-headed. However, he was the one who first proposed to ask the Blue Dragon Society to help, so he was the one who dealt with Chu Xiu and the others. He didn't expect that the result would be like this. Unfortunately, it was useless to regret. The red sleeve blade in Chu Xiu's hand wandered in the boundless blood rain. It would take a lot of effort for an Inner Aura Realm martial artist to block his blade, let alone an innate realm martial artist. Zhang Tianqi didn't have much time to regret. He was directly killed by Chu Xiu's blade. After a quarter of an hour, there was no one alive in the whole ruined temple. Wolf King panted slightly. His internal force had almost been consumed. After all, there were several Inner Aura Realm martial artists and some innate realm martial artists. After such a slaughter, his physical strength and internal force were definitely consumed. Chu Xiu didn't feel anything. His foundation was amazing. The Xiantian skill and glass golden silk goo could ensure that his physical strength and internal breath were several times or even more than 10 times that of the same level martial artists. At this time, Fire Slave also returned to the mountain. He took a breath and said, "No one was left alive." Chu Xiu nodded and said, "Well, let's divide the things first, then move the corpses into the ruined temple and burn them." "It's neat." Fire Slave and Wolf King both nodded. They took out the things carried by the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery and checked them. They simply divided them into 3 parts according to their value, and each of them picked one at random. Of course, such a simple division of the three of them must have more or less. However, the three of them were not calculative people, so they just let it go. After taking the things, they gathered the corpses at the foot of the mountain together. Fire Slave put his hand on the doorpost of the ruined temple. The fire strength and gang chi condensed in his hand, making his hands turn red. Soon, the doorpost was set on fire, and finally the whole ruined temple was affected. Wolf King praised on the side, "It's really good to cultivate the internal force of fire attribute. You don't even need to take a flint to start a fire." After watching for a while, Chu Xiu and others directly turned around and left. It was normal to have a big fire occasionally on the barren mountain. It had been burned to such a state. No one could put out the fire unless there was a heavy rain. By the next morning, everything would have been reduced to ashes. Chapter 112. Chu Xiu didn't have any psychological burden doing such a thing. It wasn't the first time he did it anyway. Fire Slave and Wolf King were a bit nervous, but after returning to the Blue Dragon Society, they handed in the mission as usual. Sky Crime Branch leader didn't even ask. Right now, Sky Crime Branch was already very short of manpower. As a branch leader, he had a lot of things to do. How could he have time to care about other people's business? After receiving the mission commission, Chu Xiu immediately returned to his room and took stock of his income this time. Together with the commission and the things he got from destroying the Linzhong Commandery's Zhang family, Chu Xiu could be said to have made a lot of money this time. It was even more than what he earned from destroying the Yu family. Also, the Linzhong Commandery's Zhang family was a big family in the past. Although they were almost ruined in recent years, they still had some resources. For example, the quality of those pills was much better than ordinary pills of the same level. Other than the usual cultivation resources, Chu Xiu also found a strange item, which was stored in an open secret box. Because the material of the secret box was good, even if it was opened, it would be used as a container for storing items in some families. It was safer and more stable. At this time, what Chu Xiu found in the secret box was actually half a technique transmission scroll. That's right, only half a piece. As a legacy item, cultivation techniques actually contained many things. Most of them were written on paper, but there were also bamboo slips and even things like gold leaf. There was practically everything one could think of. For example, Chu Xiu's 2 volumes of the Sorrowful Yin and Yang intersecting heaven and earth were written on the skin of an unknown beast. It was extremely bizarre. Compared to these things, the advantage of the technique transmission scroll was that it was convenient and fast. It could be imprinted into one's mind in an instant. But of course, the cultivation jade slips also had its disadvantages. For example, even if the cultivation technique was damaged on paper or other materials, a part of it could still be seen clearly. From there, some martial arts experts could even repair it to a perfect state through various deductions if there were only a few parts that were damaged. However, the technique impartation jade slip was different. The formation was inscribed in the center of the jade slip. Putting aside the fact that it was only half of the jade slip, even if there were a few cracks that damaged the formation in the center, it would not be possible to read the cultivation technique. It would have to be repaired first. Chu Xiu rubbed his chin and a thoughtful look appeared in his eyes. The jade slip was golden in color, and it was extremely dazzling and beautiful like amber. It was quite obvious that it was no ordinary item. Otherwise, the Zhang clan of the Forest Commandery wouldn't have treated it as a treasure and kept it in a secret box. However, the crux of the matter was that this was only half a technique transmission jade strip. It had been more than 10,000 years since the ancient times, and if there was only half of the technique transmission jade strip left, the chances of finding the other half would be close to 0. However, in the end, the Zhang clan still kept this half of the technique transmission jade slip and kept it in a secret box like a precious treasure. This time, the Zhang clan also brought this thing with them when they moved to Mount Tai County. What did this mean? It meant that in the eyes of the Zhang clan, they knew where the other half of the technique transmission jade slip was. Although they couldn't find it for the time being, they would be able to combine them one day. So where was this place? Thinking of the relationship between the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County and the Zhang clan of the Forest Commandery, Chu Xiu had a guess. Could the other half of the technique transmission jade slip be in the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County? This guess was not certain to Chu Xiu, but there was a 30% chance that it was possible. Even if there was only a 30% chance of success, it was enough for Chu Xiu to make another trip to the Zhang clan for the sake of such a high-quality cultivation transmission jade slip. Moreover, although the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County was originally quite strong, they had lost 3 internal invulnerability experts. With Chu Xiu's current strength, it would be very easy for him to get rid of them without much effort. Chu Xiu walked out of the door and happened to see Fire Slave in the central square. "Brother Chu, you didn't go to cultivate. Are you preparing to go out?" Fire Slave came over and greeted Chu Xiu. Since the last time they worked together, Fire Slave saw Chu Xiu's strength. Fire Slave's attitude towards Chu Xiu had risen to another level, second only to the degree of fawning over him. Among the assassins of the Heavenly Sin branch, Yan Bugui and Tang Yo were undoubtedly the 2 strongest. But the key was that one was cold and unsociable, and the other was eccentric and temperamental. Neither of them were normal people. Even if Fire Slave wanted to fawn over them, it would be impossible to carry out group missions with them. Only Chu Xiu was slightly more normal. As long as the benefits were enough, like the previous group mission, their cooperation was very good. In any case, it was definitely not a bad thing to have a good relationship with an expert like Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu nodded and said, "Last time we killed a few people from the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County. Although we burned the bodies, I was still afraid that they would find out something. This time, I am going to make a trip to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots." Fire Slave said doubtfully, "They have been burned to ashes. What can they find out?" Chu Xiu said lightly, "The other inner strength realm warriors of the Zhang clan should know that Zhang Tianqi and the others hired the Blue Dragon Society to rob and kill the Zhang clan of Linzhong County. Although there is no evidence, we are indeed the most suspicious. Kill them all, in case they go out and talk nonsense. Moreover, the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County also has some accumulation. They are tired of being assassins all the time. It is not bad to occasionally play the role of a bandit. Are you interested in coming with us?" Fire Slave didn't even think about it and shook his head. "Forget it. There are a lot of missions for the Blue Dragon Society. I am not as energetic as you. I still want to do other things. It was okay to loot some things while killing people. But in the case of no mission, he was too lazy to do it." A strange look appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes. He said, "Well, if you don't want to go, I will do it myself." The last mission was done by the 3 of them together. This time, if Chu Xiu secretly attacked Mount Tai County, when the news spread, Fire Slave and Wolf King would also suspect him. It was better for him to invite Fire Slave now. With the rewards of the Blue Dragon Society's mission and Fire Slave's character, he most likely wouldn't agree. And even if he agreed, Chu Xiu was not afraid. He had the art of extinguishing heaven, destroying earth and soul transferring. He could find out from the Zhang clan whether the other half of the technique transmitting jade slip was in their hands or not. If it was, Chu Xiu could also take the technique transmitting jade slip in his hand quietly. At this time, in the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County, after nightfall, 6 inner gang realm warriors of the Zhang clan were sitting in the meeting hall, frowning. In fact, it was their idea to hire the Blue Dragon Society to rob and kill the Zhang clan of Linzhong County. Even if Zhang Tianqi and the other juniors had the idea, they didn't have the power to mobilize most of the Zhang clan's resources and materials as a commission. The 6 of them were the backbone generation of the Zhang clan in their prime. But because the 3 elders of the Zhang clan still occupied their positions, they were only in charge of the clan's affairs. This time, they thought that the three elders were old and muddle-headed, and it was finally time to give up their positions. But who would have thought that the older the ginger, the wiser the ginger? They had already planned it, but they didn't tell them, leading to such a mistake. Later, the three elders of the Zhang clan took action together to stop the Blue Dragon Society from killing everyone. As a result, it had been nearly 10 days, and neither Zhang Tianqi nor the three elders of the Zhang clan had seen their shadow. One of the Zhang clan warriors frowned and said, "It's been so long, from Mount Tai County to Linzhong County. Why haven't they come back yet?" The eldest Zhang clan, who was sitting in the main seat, shook his head and said, "I don't know, but I've sent someone to look for them. I hope nothing happens to them." Because the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County was a collateral branch, there was no hierarchy in the clan. They didn't even have a master. Those who were strong and qualified could become elders, while the others were the stewards of the clan, each in charge of the clan's affairs. The advantage of this was that they could avoid being dragged down when the master was muddle-headed. But at the same time, if the elders didn't give up their positions, it would be difficult for them to gain real power. So now the eldest Zhang clan even had some dark thoughts in his mind. It would be better if the three Zhang clan elders never came back. An inner gang realm martial artist of the Zhang family shook his head and said, "This is a complete mess. The elders even hid it from us. Do they really think that we are so shallow that we will give ourselves away in front of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery? Now, even we have been deceived." The others didn't say anything. The elders treated them like children, worried that they were not shrewd enough. Didn't they also think that the elders were muddle-headed and made a wrong decision, which was why they secretly hired the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to kill them? To put it simply, there was a lot of conflict within the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County. It was so serious that both sides didn't trust each other. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, the warrior of the Zhang clan snorted coldly and said, "You guys continue to wait. I'm going out to get some fresh air." With that, the warrior of the Zhang clan directly left the meeting hall. After a while, the eldest Zhang clan frowned and said, "Where is the fourth prince? What the hell? Call him back. Let's discuss it. If we don't see him by tomorrow, we'll send some people to investigate again. This time, we'll inquire about a few more places." An inner gang realm warrior nodded and went out to call someone. However, he didn't come back for a long time. The four people present suddenly felt that something was wrong. The eldest Zhang clan's expression suddenly changed. In fact, something was wrong a long time ago. It was just that they were all thinking about why the Zhang clan elders and the others didn't come back, so they didn't notice it. The Zhang clan's mansion was so big, and the Zhang clan didn't have a curfew. It was possible that some of the Zhang clan's disciples would cause a ruckus in their own house even in the middle of the night. Some sounds would spread out, and even if they stayed in the meeting hall, they would still be able to hear it. In the end, they didn't know when the sounds around them gradually disappeared, and it began to become silent. The silence was terrifying. Chapter 113. By the time the four people from the Zhang family realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. However, they couldn't be blamed for their lack of vigilance. They were worried about the three elders of the Zhang family, and they were in their own family. Who could be so vigilant? Just as the Zhang family's eldest brother was about to get up, the door to the meeting hall was pushed open and two heads rolled in front of everyone. The faces of the Zhang family members changed abruptly. Those were the heads of the two Zhang family martial artists who had just left. Chu Xiu calmly walked into the house and sighed, "This soundproof array formation is really useful. It's a pity that it's a one-time use. By the way, does the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County have this thing?" Just now, Chu Xiu set up a soundproof array outside the Zhang family's meeting hall. It could isolate all sounds outside the array. It was also found by Chu Xiu from the things of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. Ordinary small clans could not afford to support formation masters. The Linzhong Commandery's Zhang clan used to be a large clan, so they had quite a number of formations passed down. Unfortunately, the Zhang clan no longer had any formation masters. Formations were something that could only be used once. When it came to Chu Xiu, all that was left was the soundproof formation and other ordinary formations that were used. Kill. The eldest Zhang family didn't say anything else. He directly shouted and charged at Chu Xiu with the other three. Although they didn't know why the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society wanted to deal with them, the other party had already killed 2 people from the Zhang family. This matter definitely couldn't be resolved peacefully. In fact, the eldest Zhang family was most afraid that the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery would be in trouble. They also knew the rules of the Blue Dragon Society. If the hired assassins were killed by the target, the Blue Dragon Society wouldn't retaliate against the target. Instead, they would retaliate against the employer. Previously, they were the ones who hired the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to kill the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. In the end, there was no news from the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. Even the 3 elders on their side had disappeared. Now, the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society suddenly attacked them. Could it be that they had misjudged the strength of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery, causing the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to fail their mission? As a result, they were the target of revenge. If that really happened, even if they could defeat the assassin in front of them, they would still have to face trouble from the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery. But when they truly exchanged blows, Zhang family's eldest brother discovered that he was wrong, gravely wrong. What he was considering now was not how to defeat the assassin in front of him, but how to survive under the assassin's hands. They were both inner invulnerability realm martial artists, but the pressure that this assassin from the Blue Dragon Society gave him was almost the same as that of a physical invulnerability realm martial artist. The continuous knife strikes that were like crimson drizzle fell. The opponent seemed to be playing it down, but the result was that they had to expend a lot of effort to block even one strike. Just now, Zhang family's eldest brother shouldn't have shouted, "Kill." If he had shouted, "Flee," they might have had a chance. Chu Xiu's knife strikes were extremely strange and fierce. After Zhang family's eldest brother was forced into a desperate situation, the other 3 hurriedly came to his aid. However, at this time, Chu Xiu suddenly withdrew his knife and retreated, directly engaging in close combat. The great sacrificial grappling hand directly tore off the arm of a Zhang family martial artist that was holding a sword, and with one strike, he beheaded the martial artist. One of the people behind him condensed a crimson-red astral energy in his hands and attacked towards Chu Xiu's back. However, Chu Xiu directly turned around and blasted out with the great violet sun palm. His opponent was instantly sent flying, and his entire arm was purplish-black in color. The violet sun devil flames entered his body, and the powerful force erupted, causing him to howl miserably. "Run!" Zhang family's eldest brother shouted and frantically fled outside with another martial artist. But at this moment, the red sleeve saber in Chu Xiu's hand directly left his hand, and he threw it out with the powerful saber momentum of Return of the Azure Dragon. The power of piercing the sun and moon suddenly erupted, and a thick blood aura was attached to the blade. Although it was not gang energy, it could still be indirectly separated from the body. Zhang family's eldest brother subconsciously slashed out with his sword, wanting to deflect the red sleeve saber. Who knew that the blood aura on the red sleeve saber exploded when it was still a few feet away from him, directly blasting away the long sword in his hand. The saber blade pierced into Zhang family's eldest brother's chest, and he was abruptly nailed to the pillar of the hall. At this time, the last martial artist was about to escape from the door. His eyes flashed with endless horror. The person in front of him was simply terrifying. They were all in the inner invulnerability realm, but it was difficult for the Zhang family's people to even take 3 moves of the other party in a one-on-one fight. Now, with 4 against 1, they were still easily killed by the other party. But it didn't matter. If others died, he could still live. Their Zhang family still had thousands of disciples. As long as they could escape and shout, not to mention that the other party was only an inner invulnerability realm martial artist, even if the other party was a physical invulnerability realm martial artist, they could still use their lives to exhaust the other party to death. But the moment he pushed open the door of the meeting hall, Chu Xiu's figure was like a maggot attached to a bone. He stuck close to his back, and with the great sacrificial grappling hand, he directly twisted the other party's arm and threw him back into the meeting hall. In less than 10 minutes, 3 of the Zhang family's 4 people were already dead. Previously, the person who was hit by Chu Xiu's great purple sun hand could have survived, but unfortunately, he courted death himself. He didn't realize the horror of this domineering purple sun demonic flame, and he actually wanted to use his true qi to strangle the purple sun demonic flame. In the end, it caused the purple sun demonic flame to erupt, and in the end, it completely tore the other party's heart meridian. The survivor of the Zhang family, whose arms were twisted off, trembled and said, "Why did the Blue Dragon Society attack my Zhang family? Let me live. My Zhang family is willing to give you anything." In fact, the reason at the moment was no longer important. Anyway, he was the only inner invulnerability realm martial artist left in the Zhang family, and the 3 elders' lives were basically unknown. It was more important to save their lives first. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I ask, you answer. It's that simple, don't waste any time." The inner invulnerability realm martial artist nodded repeatedly. "Does your Zhang family have half a piece of technique transmission jade slip?" The Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yes." "What does it look like?" The Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist frowned and pondered. There were so many things in their Zhang family's treasury, how could he remember everything clearly? After thinking carefully for a long time, the Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist hesitated and said, "It seems to be amber, and it looks extraordinary. As for its specific origin, only the elders know." "Where is that technique transmission jade slip?" The Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist hurriedly said, "In my Zhang family's treasury, the entrance is guarded by my Zhang family's disciples. An outsider like you can't enter at all. Even if you force your way in, you'll be discovered. Let me out, and I'll bring it to you. Don't worry, my martial arts are already crippled, so I definitely won't play tricks on you." "You really won't play tricks on me?" Chu Xiu asked. The Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist nodded repeatedly. "That's true, but unfortunately, I don't believe it." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu directly pressed his palm on the other party's chest, and the purple sun devil flame entered his body. Even though Chu Xiu's palm strength was not great, it still made the other party endure the burning pain of the devil flame, lying on the ground and constantly wailing. However, because there was a soundproof formation, no matter how loud the commotion he made, the people outside could not hear it. When the Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist had already lost consciousness from the pain, and did not even have the strength to wail, he could only keep twitching on the ground. Only then did Chu Xiu take action and pull out the purple sun devil flame. Lifting the martial artist's head, Chu Xiu displayed the art of extinguishing heaven and earth extinguishing soul transfer. His eyes were like an abyss, constantly devouring the spirit of the martial artist, causing him to fall into it unknowingly. Chu Xiu's art of extinguishing heaven and earth extinguishing soul transfer could only be considered to be at the initial level. It was basically impossible to completely control an inner invulnerability realm martial artist, so he had to completely torture the other party until he collapsed, and then take action when the other party's spirit was at its weakest. "Is the technique transmission jade slip in your Zhang family's treasury?" The martial artist stammered, "No, the treasury only has the usual cultivation resources. The truly precious treasures are all in the second level of the secret chamber under the back mountain." "How do we enter the secret chamber?" "There are 2 levels in the secret chamber. The 6 of us together can enter the first level, and the second level requires the keys of 3 elders. After speaking, Chu Xiu directly shattered the other party's heart meridian with one palm. Just now, Chu Xiu did not know whether what the other party said was true or not, but he was suspicious by nature, so he had to verify it himself before taking action. Now it seemed that it was true. This Zhang family martial artist was indeed playing tricks. If he let him go or left alone, it would attract a large number of Zhang family disciples. It was a pity that he did not expect Chu Xiu to have the art of extinguishing heaven and earth, extinguishing soul transfer. After being controlled by Chu Xiu, if he wanted to lie, he might as well bite his tongue and commit suicide. Of course, in front of Chu Xiu, even if he wanted to commit suicide, there was probably not much hope. After collecting the keys of the 6 people, Chu Xiu sighed in pity. The 3 Zhang family elders also had keys, but the person who searched them was not Chu Xiu. Moreover, they did not think of this at the time, so the keys were naturally destroyed. However, Chu Xiu's target was the Cultivation transmission jade strip. He would think about it after obtaining it. He sneaked all the way to the secret chamber in the back mountain of the Zhang family. There was no one guarding this place. For a large clan like the Zhang family, which had been passed down for several generations, it was necessary for a crafty rabbit to have 3 burrows. Not only did the clan have 2 places to hide treasures, one in the dark and the other in the light, there were probably some places outside that had treasures and resources in case of emergencies. The secret chamber on the first level was not large, only several meters in radius. The various items inside were stored in secret boxes or other precious materials. Chu Xiu rummaged through them. Most of them were ordinary items. The real premium items should be on the second level. Unfortunately, with his current strength, it was almost impossible for him to break the door of the secret chamber. The other half of the Cultivation transmission jade strip was also on this level. However, it was casually stored in a secret box and placed to the side. Clearly, the Zhang family of Mount Tai County did not attach much importance to this item and casually threw it to a corner. After sweeping the Zhang family's secret chamber clean, Chu Xiu turned and left, setting the Zhang family's meeting hall on fire. Chapter 114. The fire buried 6 Zhang family's inner aura realm warriors. Because of the soundproof array, the other Zhang family members only discovered it when the fire in the meeting hall spread to the extent of a big fire. However, it was already too late. 6 inner aura realm warriors were inexplicably killed and burned to the ground. The entire Zhang family was in a complete mess. Of course, Chu Xiu was too lazy to continue pursuing these matters. He took the Cultivation jade slip that had already been broken in half and prepared to find someone to repair it. The Cultivation jade slip had been broken in half. If it wasn't repaired, it would be impossible to read the cultivation method within. Repairing the Cultivation jade slip required an array master. There was an array master in the Heavenly Sin branch, and that was the Ghost Hand King. In fact, the Ghost Hand King could only be considered a half-baked array master. He had learned arrays for a period of time, and he even knew medicine, hidden weapons, and other miscellaneous things. He was like a clown in a vaudeville, and he could often take out many strange things. Repairing the Cultivation jade slip wasn't too complicated. With the Ghost Hand King's attainments in arrays, he should be able to do it. However, Chu Xiu didn't feel at ease giving this to the Ghost Hand King. The relationship between the hitmen of the Azure Dragon Society could be described as simple, but it could also be described as complicated. When there was no conflict of interest, they got along well, but when there was a conflict of interest, it was hard to say what would happen. To put it simply, Chu Xiu didn't trust the Ghost Hand King, and he wouldn't use a treasure to test the character of others. However, even if he couldn't give it to the Ghost Hand King, it didn't mean that Chu Xiu had no other way. He didn't know other array masters, but it didn't mean that others didn't know. Previously, Wind Sweeping Tower's wind middleman, Lu Yu, gave Chu Xiu a way to contact him. As the wind-sweeping tower's wind middleman, Lu Yu definitely had this information. Although wind-sweeping tower had a good reputation, Chu Xiu couldn't fully trust Lu Yu. However, compared to finding the ghostly hand king, the only good thing about Lu Yu was that his strength was lower. Chu Xiu was confident that he could control him. Lu Yu had a place to stay in Mount Tai County. Although Chu Xiu no longer had a wanted order on him, it was best for him not to show his face in public. Therefore, Chu Xiu only left a mark in one of the places according to Lu Yu's contact information and stayed in a dilapidated temple on a barren mountain. When Lu Yu saw the mark, he immediately came over. "May I know why official Chu is looking for me?" Lu Yu's face was full of joy. He really didn't expect that not long after he took the initiative to get to know Chu Xiu, business would come knocking on his door so quickly. Chu Xiu said directly, "I have a technique transmission jade slip, but it has been broken in half. Now I need to find an array master to repair it." After listening, Lu Yu immediately said, "Official Chu, don't worry. Although most of the array masters are in the sect, there are still some array masters who don't like to be restrained, so they act alone. I promise that I will find an array master with the best array Dao for you, official Chu." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "The array master I want doesn't need to be very skilled in array Dao. It's just repairing the technique transmission jade slip. It's not too difficult. What I need is a reliable array master. The most important thing is that he is reliable." In the anemophilia industry, Lu Yu's brain was the most flexible. From Chu Xiu's tone, he could hear what Chu Xiu meant. Lu Yu was just worried that the technique transmission jade slip in his hands would be secretly read or changed by an array master. Lu Yu thought for a while and said, "Official Chu, I really do have someone here who meets official Chu's requirements. When the time comes, official Chu, you will definitely be satisfied." After saying that, Lu Yu brought Chu Xiu to find that array master. However, when they arrived, Chu Xiu was a little surprised. The array masters of loose cultivators were also array masters. Basically, those who could become array masters were not poor. Basically, some small sects would even line up to ask the array master to help them set up array formations. At the same time, those famous blacksmiths were the same. Many cultivators would bring treasures and materials to ask the array master to forge a weapon for them. This was a very common thing. However, this time, Lu Yu brought Chu Xiu to a rundown town. It looked like an ordinary and dilapidated courtyard. This did not look like the residence of an array master. Lu Yu was too lazy to even knock on the door. He directly pushed the door open and said loudly, "Old Huang, I have business for you, and it is a big business." In the courtyard, an old man in his 60s walked out slowly. He was dressed in ordinary clothes but looked very neat. When he saw Chu Xiu in the courtyard, a strange look appeared in his eyes. He said, "Someone from the Blue Dragon Society? Lu Yu, you brat, you couldn't have tricked this big shot from the Azure Dragon Society, could you? Don't you know what I look like now?" After saying that, the old man cupped his hands at Chu Xiu and said, "Lord, although this old man used to be an array master, he is now useless. Don't be fooled by this kid. This old man can't even set up the lowest array formation now." When Lu Yu heard this, he immediately became angry. "Old Huang, I was kind enough to introduce you to business, and you actually doubt me? When have I, Lu Yu, ever fooled others? Not to mention, this is the top assassin of the Blue Dragon Society, Blood Demon, Chu Xiu, official Chu. Official Chu only wants to repair a cultivation jade slip. It's very simple. Don't tell me your hands are so shaky that you can't even repair a cultivation jade slip." That old Huang had already retired from the world for many years. What blood demon? What Chu Xiu? He didn't know a single thing. However, after hearing that the assassin from the Azure Dragon Society only wanted to repair a cultivation transmission jade slip, Old Man Huang nodded and said, "That's not a problem. However, different cultivation transmission jade slips require different amounts of time. The higher the grade of the cultivation technique, the more information it contains, and the more formation arrays it contains. As a result, the time required will be longer as well. Lu Yu said to Chu Xiu, official Chu, although this old Huang's cultivation base has been crippled, his skill in the array Dao is still there. He can't set up a formation, but repairing a cultivation jade slip shouldn't be a problem. And with his current state, even if he swallowed your cultivation jade slip, it wouldn't be of any use. Lu Yu and Old Huang seemed to be very familiar with each other. Old Huang didn't seem to mind him saying that he was crippled in front of him. He could more or less understand why this Blue Dragon Society assassin had come looking for him to repair his cultivation jade slip. Old Huang bitterly smiled at Chu Xiu and said, "Lord, you've also seen my current state. At my peak, I was at the Xiantian realm, but now I can't even maintain my blood condensation realm. Setting up a formation also requires inner qi as the foundation. With my current strength, I can't even set up a formation. At most, I can only help others repair formations. So please don't worry, Lord. Even if the cultivation jade slip you want me to repair contains a peerless divine art, a cripple like me won't be able to cultivate it. Furthermore, I've been a formation master for half my life. I know what I can do and what I can't do." Glancing at Old Huang, Chu Xiu nodded and said, "That's fine. Then I'll leave it to you. Don't worry, as long as you can help me repair this cultivation jade slip, the reward will not be small." Chu Xiu was quite satisfied with Old Huang's help. A cripple was much more reliable than a highly skilled formation master. Furthermore, repairing a cultivation jade slip was a simple matter. Even a highly skilled formation master wouldn't be able to do it much faster. The most important thing was that Old Huang's strength was very weak. He had barely reached the blood condensation realm, but in a real fight, he probably wouldn't even be able to beat someone who had only learned martial arts for a few days. Chu Xiu was still used to being in control of everything. If Lu Yu found an internal Qi realm cultivator with a large group of formation masters, Chu Xiu wouldn't be able to trust them. Taking out the two halves of the cultivation jade slip, Chu Xiu handed it to Old Huang and said, "This is the cultivation jade slip. How long will it take to repair it?" Old Huang looked at it carefully and said, "This cultivation jade slip is not simple. There are many formation runes inside, and they are at least at the 5th revolution. It will take a long time to repair, around 2 to 3 months. During this time, Lord can wait here. Of course, it's fine even if you leave." This old man wouldn't dare to play any tricks in front of Lord. The repair time was much longer than Chu Xiu had expected. He had thought it would only take a few days. "I'll leave it with you for now. This is the deposit." Saying that, Chu Xiu tossed a piece of purple gold to Old Huang. At the same time, he tossed one to Lu Yu as a deposit. Seeing the purple gold, Old Huang's eyes immediately lit up. He did not lack ordinary valuables. After all, he was once an innate realm formation master. He would not starve to death. However, purple gold was a strange metal that could be used for setting up formations and refining artifacts. It was a hard currency, and it was not easy to obtain a piece. "Lord, please rest assured. This old man will definitely use the fastest speed to repair this cultivation jade slip." Old Huang received the purple gold and cupped his hands with a face full of joy. Chu Xiu nodded and left the town with Lu Yu. When they separated, Lu Yu cupped his hands and said to Chu Xiu, "Lord, please rest assured. Old Huang is still trustworthy. Furthermore, he won't attract attention here and will be absolutely safe." Chu Xiu glanced at Lu Yu and said indifferently, "It's fine. I believe in my own strength as well." After saying that, Chu Xiu's figure moved, and he left. Sensing Chu Xiu's ice-cold gaze, Lu Yu immediately felt a chill run down his spine. He understood what Chu Xiu meant. If something happened to the cultivation jade slip, not to mention Old Huang, even he would be implicated. Chu Xiu believed in his own strength. Hence, he did not care about wind-sweeping pavilion's background. He looked at the purple gold in his hand and weighed it in his hand. It was about 10 taels of silver. Just the deposit alone was already quite a lot. However, Lu Yu still shook his head. It was not easy to deal with this group of fiendish Blue Dragon Society assassins. This money was not easy to earn. Chapter 115. After Chu Xiu returned to the Blue Dragon Society, Fire Slave and Wolf King both knew what Chu Xiu had done. However, they were smart enough not to ask Chu Xiu what he had obtained from the Zhang family in Daoist County. The freedom of the Heavenly Sin branch was still very high. There were so many tasks that they could choose from. In addition, they did not have the strength that Chu Xiu had to look down on a clan. This kind of thing was something that Chu Xiu could do, but they could not. After returning, Chu Xiu did not choose to carry out the task. Instead, he continued to stay in the Blue Dragon Society to cultivate and digest all the things he had obtained from the Zhang family. Chu Xiu never accumulated things like cultivation resources. He always used them when he had them, and when he ran out of them, he would take on tasks and continue to earn cultivation resources. From the inner invulnerability stage to the physical invulnerability stage required the most cultivation resources. On the contrary, from the physical invulnerability stage to the 3 flowers at one's prominence or the 5 cheese origin stage, what was needed was not a large number of cultivation resources, but one's own potential and comprehension. Just as Chu Xiu was almost done with his cultivation and was about to come out, the Ghost Hand King suddenly called Chu Xiu and asked him to go to the square to wait for the Heavenly Sin branch leader. When Chu Xiu arrived at the square, he found that 80% of the killers in the Heavenly Sin branch were gathered there. Moreover, all the killers above level 4 with code names were there. Chu Xiu asked Fire Slave in a low voice, "What's going on?" Fire Slave chuckled and said, "There should be a big group mission. Otherwise, we wouldn't all be called here. Looking at the current scale, this group mission is not small." After a while, the Heavenly Sin branch leader walked out and said to everyone present in a deep voice, "The branch recently accepted a level 6 extermination mission. I was prepared to go personally, but I was entangled with other more difficult missions and couldn't get away. So this time, the mission will be handed over to you. You don't need to contact the employer. Just kill them." As he spoke, Sky Crime branch leader gave everyone a copy of the mission brief. There was only the mission objective and no information about the employer. Looking at the mission brief, Chu Xiu had a strange expression on his face. How much hatred did the person who issued the mission have with the other party? This task was very simple. The elder of the Spirit Sword sect, the number 1 sect in the Autumn Ridge County, Hidden Spirit Sword, Xianxia, was ready to retire from the Jianghu. He was going to hold a washing his hands in a golden basin ceremony at the Yao family manor in the Autumn Ridge County. What the Blue Dragon Society wanted to do was to kill Yao Nanxian and destroy the Yao family before the golden basin washing ceremony was completed. It had to be said that this mission was quite vicious. Washing his hands in a golden basin meant that he would completely withdraw from the martial arts world. He would let go of all his grudges and prepare for retirement. However, the employer wanted him to die before he could prepare for retirement. This could be said to be a huge grudge. Moreover, it was not an exaggeration to set this mission as a level 6 mission. Although the strength of the Yao family was not strong, with only Yao Nanxian being a physical invulnerability martial artist, if they made a move during the golden basin washing ceremony, someone would definitely intervene in this matter. Not to mention, although the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect would not come, he would send other physical invulnerability elders or deacons. Moreover, the Spirit Sword sect was the number 1 sect in the Qiuling County, and Yao Nanxian was also a senior who had been in the martial arts world for decades. There would probably be a lot of people who would come to participate in his golden basin washing ceremony. Among those people, who would just watch from the sidelines and who would make a move, it was still unknown. Therefore, setting this mission as a level 6 mission was not only the intention of the Blue Dragon Society, but also the choice of the employer. The Heavenly Sin branch leader looked at the crowd and said, "For this mission, all the assassins above level 4 must go. The rest of the assassins below level 4 must also go. For this kind of large-scale group mission, there must be a temporary commander. Who among you will take this position?" The Ghost Hand King, Fire Slave, Wolf King, and the others exchanged a look, then they all kept their silence and remained silent. They were only in the inner aura stage. Usually, they could be the commander when they brought other innate stage assassins to carry out the mission. However, now there were 3 more powerful existences, so of course, they could not steal this limelight. Cruel Sword Yen Bugue directly said, "I'm not interested." He could kill people, but with his character, if he really wanted to be the commander, perhaps he would only say the word, "kill." His style of doing things was very simple and crude. Everyone present set their eyes on Chu Xiu and Tangya. In the past, when they carried out the mission, Tangya was the temporary commander, and with his physical invulnerability, he was one of the strongest in the Heavenly Sin branch. However, the mission of exterminating the Yu family by Chu Xiu was too dazzling. With the power of one person, he was able to directly exterminate the entire Yu family. It could be seen that Chu Xiu's ability in strategy. Therefore, it was a difficult problem to decide who should be the leader of these 2 people. The Heavenly Sin branch leader looked at the 2 of them and suddenly said, "Last time, Chu Xiu's performance in exterminating the Yu family was not bad. Moreover, the employer requested us to make the mission a little bigger. Chu Xiu's reputation in the Jianghu should be a little bigger. Therefore, this time, Chu Xiu will be the leader." "Tangya, do you have any objections?" Tangya only smiled and said casually, "I will obey Lord Branch Leader's orders." Chu Xiu also cupped his hands expressionlessly and said, "Understood." This branch leader had used too many methods to keep his subordinates in check. His identity as a commander was limited to this operation and did not have any actual power. Just for such a small matter, he still wanted to sow discord between him and Tangya, both openly and secretly. In fact, Division Leader Heavenly Sin could have given this mission to Chu Xiu. However, Division Leader Heavenly Sin had asked for Tangya's opinion at the end, which carried a strong sense of alienation and provocation. It made Tangya feel that he was inferior to Chu Xiu. Division Leader Heavenly Sin even hinted that if Tangya did not agree, he could say it out loud. Actually, the Heavenly Sin branch leader did this only because Chu Xiu had been too close to Ghost Hand King and the others recently. The Heavenly Sin branch leader did not want his subordinates to kill each other, but at the same time, he did not want them to be too close. Right now, it was fine that Chu Xiu was close to Ghost Hand King and the others, but he did not want his 3 strongest assassins to be so close as well. This was all guessed by Chu Xiu, but he did not say anything. There was no need to ruin the Heavenly Sin branch leader's reputation for such a small matter. As for whether Tangya bore a grudge against him or not, Chu Xiu did not care about it. As long as the other side did not carry out the grudge in his heart, Chu Xiu naturally could not be bothered to care about them. In other words, ever since Chu Xiu stepped into the Jianghu, he had killed many people and offended even more people. There were many people who secretly bore grudges and even wanted to kill him. Right now, he did not care about this one. The Heavenly Sin branch leader nodded his head in satisfaction and said, "Since this is the case, you all should act quickly. The earlier you complete the mission, the more missions the branch has accumulated." "Understood." The assassins present all replied respectfully. Outside the Anyang prefecture of the Autumn Ridge County, the Yao family village was located near a small lake outside the Anyang prefecture. The scenery was very beautiful. Previously, the Yao family village had been relatively low-key. However, today, because Yao Nanxian was going to hold the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony, the Yao family village could be said to be very lively. Outside the Yao family village, several of Yao Nanxian's sons were greeting the guests at the entrance. The guests were all disciples from the big sects, and there were also some martial artists from small sects or loose cultivators who came to watch the ceremony. Of course, their treatment was not as polite as those from the big sections. Usually, they would just send the congratulatory gifts and then enter the village to find a place to sit. Yao Nanxian's reputation in the martial arts world of the Autumn Ridge County was relatively big. He should be the most senior in the Spirit Sword sect. Moreover, he was also well known for his love of guiding the younger generation. It could be said that he was a highly respected elder in Jianghu. Coupled with the power and influence of the Spirit Sword sect, the number of people who came today was not small. Moreover, the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony was not common in the Jianghu. Many people came with curiosity to watch the ceremony. Actually, most of the martial artists who said that they would retire from the Jianghu were just looking for a quiet place to live out their retirement. They would not hold any ceremony because this thing was too important. Once the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony was held, it meant that you could no longer meddle in any Jianghu affairs. Your contacts, your relationship, and your prestige in the Jianghu would be completely washed away along with the washing of hands in a golden basin. After washing of hands in a golden basin, meddling in the Jianghu affairs would be a violation of the rules. Even if it was Yao Nanxian's son who wanted to borrow Yao Nanxian's power, he would not be able to do so. It could be said that this washing of hands in a golden basin completely washed away the identity of a Jianghu person. Of course, there were also benefits. After washing of hands in a golden basin, he would be recognized by all parties. Even those who had a grudge against him could no longer come to find trouble with him. Otherwise, that would be a violation of the rules of the Jianghu, and he would be attacked by everyone. The Jianghu disciple and the Jianghu veteran stepped into the Jianghu. No matter if they were good or bad, once they realized the power and influence, who would want to return to their family and be a rich man? Who would want to put down the sword in their hand and let it rust in the corner? Other places might not know, but at least in Chiling County, in the past decade or so, Yao Nanxian was the first person to hold the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. He had officially washed his hands in a golden basin in front of many Jianghu people and retired from the Jianghu. As for the others, most of them were just selling dog meat. They said that they were going to retire from the Jianghu, but there was no telling when they would come back to the Jianghu for some reason, just like Su Chongyang, who had been killed by Chu Xiu. Inside the Yao clan manor, Lu Yu carried a fan on his back and waved it in his hand. He wobbled around the Yao clan manor, greeting all the cultivators he knew and did not know. He was an anemophilia under the wind-sweeping towers Daoist County branch. However, there were some problems with the wind-sweeping tower in Chiling County, so it was temporarily under the jurisdiction of Daoist County. Now that such a big thing had happened, he naturally had to come and take a look so that he could get first-hand information. At this moment, a few unaffiliated martial artists who were on good terms with Lu Yu saw him approaching. They all greeted him and said, "Brother Lu, I knew that you would be needed at such an occasion. Come, come, come. Come and sit. Tell us about the inside story of old Master Yao's retirement from the Jianghu this time." Lu Yu walked over and sat down. He used his fan to point at the main entrance and said, "Don't be anxious. The big shots haven't all arrived yet. Today is a big event that you guys can only see once in a decade. It's enough for you to brag about." Chapter 116. Lu Yu was right. Those who came first were just small potatoes. When the washing ceremony was about to begin, many big shots arrived one after another. The first to arrive were 3 martial artists in the physical invulnerability stage, all dressed in blue with swords on their back. Lu Yu pointed to the 3 people and said, 3 of the 4 sword leaders of the Spirit Sword sect are here. These 3 people have reached the physical invulnerability stage in their prime. It is said that in the past, they were also guided and promoted by Yao Nanxian in the Spirit Sword sect. A martial artist next to him wondered, why didn't the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Frost Moon Sword Lin Feiyu, come? His own elder has washed his hands in the golden basin, so as the sect leader, he should come out. Lu Yu looked around and said in a low voice, there is some gossip, but it's just gossip, don't take it seriously. The several martial artists present also laughed twice. They knew what Lu Yu meant. How could the news from the wind-sweeping building be gossip? Lu Yu lowered his voice and said, according to seniority, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Lin Feiyu, is Yao Nanxian's junior, the same generation as the 4 sword leaders present. It's just that Lin Feiyu's aptitude was mediocre, so Yao Nanxian promoted other people. However, because Lin Feiyu had a conflict with his disciple, he opposed him and even suppressed him, which led to the enmity between the two. As a result, no one expected that the previously selected successor of the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect died prematurely, and the seemingly mediocre Lin Feiyu actually soared to the sky. Soon after Lin Feiyu stepped into the physical invulnerability stage, he directly comprehended and condensed the 3 flowers above his head. After taking over the position of the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect a year ago, he observed the Nirvana Spirit Sword mark left by the ancestor of the Spirit Sword sect, gathered the 5 Qi in his body, and reached the 5 Qi unification stage. He was only one step away from the realm of the unity of man and nature. Think about it carefully, the disciple who was suppressed by him in the past has now achieved far more than the ancestors of the Spirit Sword sect. It's not easy for Yao Nanxian to stay in the Spirit Sword sect for such a long time. He might have washed his hands in a golden basin today for this reason. Now, Lin Feiyu has allowed 3 physical invulnerability mighty ones who have the best relationship with Yao Nanxian to attend his washing ceremony. This is already considered generous. A martial artist doubtfully said, but the outside world said that Master Yao is a fair person and likes to promote the younger generation. Not only the disciples of Spirit Sword sect, but even the young martial artists of Jianghu have been promoted by Master Yao. Lu Yu looked around and said, it's not convenient for me to say much today. I will only tell everyone one thing. There has never been a saint in the martial world. It's normal to help those who are close to them and ignore reason. If one's own disciple is being bullied, no matter how just a person is, would they side with outsiders? Several people present nodded hesitantly. Just as they were about to say something, several groups of people came in from the outside. Lu Yu said as if he was counting his family treasures, the Zhou family of East Ridge, the Lu family of Tyrant Water, the Jiuhua sect, the Red Flame Saber sect. TSK, more than 10 big sects have come. Yao Nanxian has been in the Qiuling County and the East Yen martial arts world for half of his life, and there are really a lot of people who give him face. Hey, this is a real big shot. With that, a military martial artist in his early 30s came in from the door. He was wearing a silver radiant armor with a long saber at his waist. Seeing this person, it was not the eldest son of the Yao family who came to greet him, but Yao Nanxian himself. Yao Nanxian was in his 70s this year. He had a square face and gray hair. However, he had the strength of the physical invulnerability stage, so it was easy for him to live for more than 100 years. Now, although his qi and blood had declined, he still retained most of his strength. Today, Yao Nanxian was wearing a brocade robe and did not carry any weapons. He was dressed like a rich man. When he saw the military martial artist, he immediately greeted him with a smile and said, General Xiang, your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. General Xiang waved his hand and said, please don't make fun of me, old Master Yao. I'm just a lieutenant under the mountain subduing army. I don't deserve the title of general. Yao Nanxian smiled and said, you deserve it. Who doesn't know that General Xiang is now the mountain subduing army's General Yin Luohua's trusted subordinate? You've already reached the physical invulnerability stage at such a young age. I estimate that it won't be long before General Xiang reaches the 3 flowers at one's prominent stage. When that time comes, you will definitely be given the title of Deputy General. It doesn't matter if you call me General sooner or later. Hearing Yao Nanxian say this, General Xiang did not say much. He just casually took off the long saber at his waist and threw it to Yao Nanxian as a congratulatory gift, then walked straight in. It was normal for martial artists to give weapons as congratulatory gifts, but the problem was that Yao Nanxian was about to wash his hands of martial arts. In the end, General Xiang actually gave him a saber. This was very unlucky. When he received the gift, the corner of Yao Nanxian's eye twitched. However, he did not dare to say anything. He only obediently let the man in. Lu Yu said in a low voice from behind, among the 9 counties of Eastern Yan, the Northern Yan Imperial Court has stationed 3 armies in Eastern Yan. Our Qiuling County is actually under the Mountain Subduing Army's control. This person is called Xiang Weiyang, and he is the trusted subordinate of the Mountain Subduing Army's General Yin Luohua, the Flying Tiger. He was not famous before, but after he was promoted by Yin Luohua, he shone with extraordinary talent. He participated in the battle against the 36 great bandits of the northern lands. Within a day, he led a team to eliminate the Fang family of Linzhong County, which was disrespectful to the imperial court. His methods were decisive and fierce. A martial artist beside him said in a low voice, "It's a little strange for someone from the imperial court to participate in our Jianghu's washing hands ceremony." Lu Yu said in a low voice, "There's nothing strange about it. In the past, our northern Yan was weak, and we were suppressed by eastern Qi. It was because of the great talent and strategy of the current emperor. He united the northern Yan martial arts community and resolved the 36 great bandits of the northern lands internally, and defeated eastern Qi externally. He destroyed that arrogant Wei kingdom and turned it into our northern Yan's Wei county. Although the conflict between the imperial court and the Jianghu has become more intense in recent years, the old relationship between the two still exists. With Yao Nanxian's status, the mountain subduing army sent a lieutenant with a bright future to support him. This is already giving him face. After Xiang Weiyang, who represented the northern Yan imperial court, arrived, a few other people from the major sects followed. The most famous of them was an old monk. The old monk seemed to be on good terms with Yao Nanxian. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Yao Nanxian personally led him into the manor. Lu Yu said in a low voice, "The abbot of Jinhua Temple, Zen Master Heng Shan, is a physical invulnerability expert from Mount Tai County. Of course, he is more famous for his attainments in Buddhism. He is the strongest among all the Buddhist temples in Mount Tai County. I heard that he was once invited by the Great Light Temple to discuss Buddhism. Zen Master Heng Shan is a good friend of Yao Nanxian. This time, Yao Nanxian is going to wash his hands in a golden basin, and he was also invited to be a witness." The few martial artists behind Lu Yu nodded. Although they liked to listen to the gossip of the Jianghu, those were all rumors and idle chatter. How could they be as well informed as Lu Yu, a true anemophilia expert? After an hour, almost all the people had arrived. Yao Nanxian walked up to a high platform in the middle of the courtyard, cupped his hands across his chest, and said, "Fellow Daoists, today, you have given me face and come to this old man's washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. This old man has nothing to say but gratitude. In the past, this old man was just a down-and-out small businessman. When I was in my 20s, I was recognized by my master and entered the Spirit Sword sect. After mingling in the Eastern Yan martial arts world for several decades, I managed to make a small name for myself." Hearing this, someone below immediately said, "Old Master Yao, if your reputation is only insignificant, then we will truly become nameless people." Yao Nanxian smiled and said, "There are many heroes in this Jianghu. Compared to them, if this old man is not small, then what am I? It's precisely because I've seen these heroes that I feel that I'm already old and can no longer contribute to the sect. Instead of staying in the sect and being a rice worm, I might as well withdraw from the world of martial arts and spend my remaining years in peace." After stepping into the Jianghu for several decades, I have seen wind and rain and experienced waves. It's time for me to go ashore and write off all the gratitude and grudges. Today, this old man, Xianxia, officially wash his hands in a golden basin. From now on, I no longer care about the gratitude and grudges of the Jianghu, nor do I care about the Jianghu. Bring the golden basin. As soon as his voice fell, Xianxian's eldest son brought the golden basin filled with water. The head monk of Jinhua Temple, Monk Hengshan, also stood on the side as a witness to this washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. Monk Hengshan's responsibility as a witness was not small. As a witness, it meant that he could prove that Xianxian had washed his hands in a golden basin. Later on, if Xianxian ever intervened in the Jianghu affairs, that would be breaking the rules. As a witness, he had to be the first one to make a move against Xianxian. And if there were other people who made a move against Xianxian, that would also be breaking the rules. As a witness, he had to be the first one to stand up and help Xianxian by contacting the Jianghu people for help. It could be said that this was a very troublesome thing. If it was not a real good friend, or a fellow disciple of the sect, no one would accept this position. Everyone below was waiting for the final scene of washing of hands in a golden basin. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. "Old Master Yao, you are prepared to wash your hands in a golden basin and settle all the gratitude and grudges in the Jianghu. But have you asked others if they are willing to settle all the gratitude and grudges with you? After stepping into the Jianghu and picking up a sword, your hands are stained with blood and are also stained with karma. Not to mention a golden basin, even a purple gold basin cannot wash away the blood on your hands and cannot wash away the karma on your body. There is a good saying, the world is like the tide and people are like the water. Only a few people in the Jianghu will return. Old Master Yao, it won't be so easy for you to withdraw from the Jianghu so peacefully." Everyone abruptly looked behind them, only to see close to 100 black-clothed cultivators standing on the walls of the Yao clan manor at some point in time. A pitch-black samurai suit, a black iron bamboo hat with golden patterns, and a strange black iron mask. The leader's black iron mask had a hideous bloodstain. He looked at Xianxian with a cold gaze. The dense killing intent shrouded the entire Yao clan manor in a dense chill. Chapter 117. Blue Dragon Society. The Assassins of the Blue Dragon Society. There were many taboos in the pugilistic world. For example, one could bring weapons normally, but not during ancestral worship. Otherwise, it would be inauspicious. However, no matter how inauspicious it was, could it be more inauspicious than encountering the Assassins of the Blue Dragon Society during the Golden Basin washing ceremony? Everyone present looked at Xianxian. In fact, they were also very confused. Old Master Yao had a very good reputation in Qiuling Prefecture and even in the entire pugilistic world of East Yen. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people attending the Golden Basin washing ceremony today. If it was a nameless person, they wouldn't care whether he or she washed his hands in a golden basin or a silver basin. Moreover, although the Assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were the strongest in the pugilistic world, they were also the most expensive. How many assassins did the Blue Dragon Society send out? There were already a few people who had some understanding of the heavenly sin branch. Among them was the recently famous blood devil, Chu Xiu, who was ranked on the Longhu list. There were also Cruel Sword, Yen Bugui and Tangya, who were infamous in the heavenly sin branch before Chu Xiu. Moreover, although the Ghost Hand King, Fire Slave, and Wolf King weren't famous, they were all elite assassins of the Blue Dragon Society since they could leave a mark on their masks. This was something that everyone knew. Apart from these people, there were also close to 100 assassins of the Blue Dragon Society present. With such a large number of people, perhaps even the entire Heavenly Sin branch of the Blue Dragon Society had been mobilized. The people below all had different expressions. Lu Yu and the others also revealed expressions of watching a good show, especially Lu Yu. He directly took out a small notebook and a thin pen, and excitedly recorded something on it. Today, he was only here to join in the fun, but he didn't expect to pick up such a big piece of news. The others' mentality was similar to Lu Yu and the others. Even if some people respected Yaonanshian's character, no one dared to jump out to uphold justice at this time. At this moment, an ordinary person would have been scared out of their wits in the face of such a situation. However, Yaonanshian could be considered an existence who had seen great winds and waves. Facing the assassins of the Azure Dragon Society in front of him, he was still confident. Although the Blue Dragon Society is an assassin organization, it is still a sect in the pugilistic world. There are rules that should be followed, right? I have already decided to retire from the world of martial arts. Do you still want to force me? Chu Xiu sneered and said, "Don't you know why my Blue Dragon Society is here today?" If he wanted to leave the world of martial arts, that was fine. He would settle all his past grudges and he would naturally be able to leave the world of martial arts in peace. My Blue Dragon Society is here to help you settle your grudges today. If you don't die in this round, my Blue Dragon Society won't care what basin you use to wash your hands in. At this moment, Zen Master Heng Shan, who was standing beside Yaonanshian, stood up, put his palms together, and chanted Buddha's name. He said, "The Blue Dragon Society has its own rules. This old monk is aware of this. However, the Blue Dragon Society naturally has the right to reject the mission. Everyone, today is Brother Yao's retirement ceremony, yet your Blue Dragon Society is so insistent. Aren't you afraid of causing public anger? Is the reward of this mission more important or the public anger of the East Yen martial arts world more important? I believe you can weigh the pros and cons yourself." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows. This old monk just opened his mouth and pushed the Blue Dragon Society to the opposite side of the East Yen martial arts world. Were all monks so eloquent? Chu Xiu looked around and cupped his hands at the others. He said, "Everyone, you know the rules of the Blue Dragon Society. The Blue Dragon Society is a sword. Whoever spends money, this sword will help that person to kill. How can there be any good people who have been in the world of martial arts for decades? Anyway, I don't believe it. Yaonanshian has sowed karma. Now, someone is spending a lot of money to ask the Blue Dragon Society to repay this karma. It's reasonable, so please don't interfere. The Blue Dragon Society's rule is not to kill innocent people without paying. However, if anyone obstructs the Blue Dragon Society from killing people, then the Blue Dragon Society doesn't mind killing them first." As soon as the words left his mouth, the expressions of the crowd changed slightly. This assassin from the Azure Dragon Society was a little too arrogant. He actually dared to threaten them in front of everyone. However, threats were just threats. The power of the Blue Dragon Society was there. Whoever dared to help Yaonanshian resist the Blue Dragon Society at this time was simply courting death. As for those who had the strength to challenge the Blue Dragon Society, their relationship with Yaonanshian wasn't that good. The disciples of the large sects immediately left and walked to the side, indicating that they didn't want to interfere in this matter. They came to participate in Yaonanshian's washing ceremony only because of their pride. After all, Yaonanshian had a good reputation in the East Yen martial arts world. However, in reality, they didn't have any beneficial relationship with Yaonanshian. What benefits could a person who was going to wash his hands of the golden basin bring to them? As these people from the large sects moved, most of the others looked at each other and stood to the side. Xiang Weiyang, who came from the military, didn't move, but he also didn't stand up to speak for Yaonanshian. Instead, his eyes revealed a trace of interest. In the past, the Northern Yen Imperial Court and Jianghu had a lot of cooperation. However, that was in the past. Especially in recent years, these people in Jianghu had somewhat gone too far. They even had the tendency to not put the imperial court in their eyes. Thus, the Northern Yan imperial court couldn't just ignore this. Therefore, whether it was Yao Nanxian's side or the Blue Dragon Society side, he didn't care who died. At most, he would just watch a big show. Under the coercion of the Blue Dragon Society, most of the martial artists chose to stay neutral and didn't want to get involved in this matter. Only dozens of loose cultivators who had received kindness from Yao Nanxian in the past stood on the side of the Yao family, willing to live and die together with Yao Nanxian. The three physical invulnerability martial artists of the Spirit Sword sect coldly snorted and then stood up. Members of the Blue Dragon Society, don't you think you've gone too far? Do you even put our Spirit Sword sect in your eyes? Even if Martial Uncle Yao has decided to wash his hands of Jianghu, he is still a member of our Spirit Sword sect. If we let you kill Martial Uncle Yao today, where would we put our face? Although the three of them were not Yao Nanxian's disciples, in the past, they all relied on Yao Nanxian's promotion to reach their current position in the Spirit Sword sect. Now, whether it was because they were sincerely grateful to Yao Nanxian or simply didn't want others to say that they were ungrateful, in any case, they had to stand up. Chu Xiu lightly said, "Don't say that you're from the Spirit Sword sect. Who doesn't know about the matter between Yao Nanxian and your Spirit Sword sect? If the Spirit Sword sect really regards Yao Nanxian as one of their own, why didn't they hold the washing hands and the golden basin ceremony in the Spirit Sword sect, but in the Yao family village? Moreover, why didn't your sect leader Lin show up? Sect leader Lin cares about his face and can't take revenge for the past enmity, so today, the Blue Dragon Society will help them take revenge together. Maybe sect leader Lin will even secretly thank us." As soon as his voice fell, Chu Xiu directly waved his hand and shouted, "Do it." The Heavenly Sin Branch leader actually didn't have a good plan for him to be the commander of this mission. With these words, it was clear who would stand on Yao Nanxian's side, and who would choose to stay on the sidelines. The people of the Blue Dragon Society just needed to kill them. Actually, the number of people who would help Yao Nanxian was almost the same as Chu Xiu's estimation. The only one that Chu Xiu didn't expect was the Jinhua Temple's Zen master Heng Shan to have such a close relationship with Yao Nanxian that he was willing to stand up for him in the face of the Blue Dragon Society. However, fortunately, Yao Nanxian and that Zen master Heng Shan were already old, so the real problem was the three Spirit Sword sect's external aura stage martial artists. The three of them were one of the four great sword leaders of the Spirit Sword sect. As the name implied, they were the top swordsmen of the Spirit Sword sect. Although this title was given by the Spirit Sword sect itself, it also proved the status of these three people in the Spirit Sword sect. As soon as the two sides began to fight, Yan Bugui directly faced two Spirit Sword sect's external aura stage martial artists, while Tangya faced Yao Nanxian and another Spirit Sword sect martial artist. Although Chu Xiu was a level 5 assassin, he was still in the internal aura stage. Therefore, he didn't have much confidence in fighting against the three Spirit Sword sect's external aura stage martial artists. However, with his current strength, Chu Xiu still had some confidence in dealing with an old monk like Zen Master Heng Shan. Zen Master Heng Shan's Jinhua Temple was relatively famous among the Buddhist temples in the Mount Tai County. Zen Master Heng Shan's reputation was also not small. He liked to guide the younger generation of disciples, and he was a fair person. If there was any competition between the surrounding forces of the martial arts world, he would always help to mediate, so that the two sides would not turn into a life-and-death fight. Looking at Chu Xiu, Zen Master Heng Shan said in a sinking voice, "Does the Blue Dragon Society really want to go to the extreme today?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "It's not that our Blue Dragon Society wants to go to the extreme, but the employer who hired us wants to go to the extreme. Don't Buddhism pay attention to cause and effect the most? Yao Nanxian has been stained with cause and effect, so now it's time for him to pay it back. Isn't that reasonable?" Zen Master Heng Shan chanted the name of Buddha and said, "Since you believe in karma, do you know how many innocent people your Azure Dragon Society has killed as a knife in the hands of others? How much blood and karma have your hands been stained with? If you turn back now, you still have the chance to put down the butcher's knife. Chu Xiu pulled out the red sleeve blade in his hand and lightly said, Zen Master, do you want to persuade me to put down the butcher's knife and turn back to the shore? Unfortunately, if I turn back, I will die. I put down the knife in my hand, but the person who wants to kill me will not put down the sword in his hand. In addition, I also want to give you a piece of advice. Do you know why the monks in the Subhuti monastery who practice ascetic meditation for dozens of years live longer? It's not because they are skilled in martial arts and Buddhist dharma, but because they don't like to meddle in other people's business. Zen Master Hengshan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, an incomparably sharp glint burst out from his eyes. The Buddhist sect can persuade people to put down the butcher's knife. Since you are so stubborn, then the Buddhist sect also has the wrath of the Vajra. As soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling golden gang chi burst out from Zen Master Hengshan's body. His loose monk robe fluttered, and his momentum burst out fiercely. The wrath of the Vajra could suppress evil and subdue demons. Chapter 118. The southern Buddhist sect cultivated Dharma, while the northern Buddhist sect cultivated physique. Although Zen Master Hengshan was not a disciple of the Great Guangming Temple, it should be known that 99% of the Buddhist disciples in the northern Buddhist sect cultivated physique refining techniques. Although Zen Master Hengshan always had a benevolent look on his face, the moment he unleashed his power, it really had the power of a Vajra that could subdue demons. The Vajra gang chi coiled around Zen Master Hengshan's body. When his fist landed, his right hand formed a fist seal like a pestle to subdue demons. Chu Xiu's red sleeve blade slashed onto his fist, but it produced a violent explosion of gang chi. There was only a white mark on Zen Master Hengshan's fist, while Chu Xiu's body was involuntarily sent flying several feet away. Chu Xiu furrowed his brows. His hand, which was holding onto the blade, could not stop itself from trembling. This monk's strength was not just average. Additionally, he had cultivated himself to the point where he could use his body to fight against primordial weapons. So far, the only physical invulnerability expert that Chu Xiu had killed was Euhenian. However, at that time, Euhenian's strength was greatly reduced because he had been poisoned by the 3-bug 3-flower powder. Although the current Chu Xiu's strength had improved a lot compared to that time, he could only be suppressed in front of a famous physical invulnerability expert like Zen Master Hengshan. The golden gang chi around Zen Master Hengshan's body surged, and his figure came crashing down. An incomparably powerful punch landed with a loud bang, sealing off all escape routes around Chu Xiu. He formed a seal with both hands and slammed it down. Vajra seal. The power contained in this seal was extremely fierce and overbearing. The pale golden gang chi whizzed over, and Chu Xiu could feel the piercing sharpness of the gang chi from a few feet away. It was as if there was really a Buddhist Vajra suppressing demons and subduing demons in front of him. A sharp glint flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. He struck out with the great violet sun palm, but at the same time, his palm was also condensed with an incomparably strong power of blood. Its density was even comparable to the gang chi of a martial artist of the outer invulnerability realm. Zen Master Hengshan snorted coldly at the sight of the extremely dense evil blood chi that sent chills down one's spine. Evil demon. Just this powerful baleful blood chi alone was enough to prove that this kid had killed countless people. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to condense such a degree of baleful blood chi. As he thought of this, the Vajra seal in his hand shone brightly, and it descended, colliding with Chu Xiu's great violet sun palm. Instantly, a shocking shockwave erupted. With a loud bang, Chu Xiu's figure retreated several steps. The powerful inner force blasted into his body. If he had not mobilized all the true chi in his body to resist, this seal would have been enough to cripple his arm. However, Chu Xiu was not at ease at this moment. When the powerful force of the Vajra seal entered his body, it directly caused one of his arms to be drenched in blood. It even shook his internal organs, causing Chu Xiu to spit out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. On the other hand, Zen Master Heng Shan did not take the opportunity to attack. He looked at the purple mark on his palm, and his expression changed slightly. What kind of evil technique is this? At this moment, Zen Master Heng Shan could clearly feel an incomparably scorching force spreading from the meridians in his hands to the rest of his body. The burning pain was unbearable, and he had no choice but to use all the true qi in his body to suppress it. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "My martial arts does not distinguish between good and evil. It's fine as long as it can kill." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu took the initiative to attack. The knife in his hand was like a continuous drizzle, slashing at Zen Master Heng Shan with murderous intent and crimson. He actually forced Zen Master Heng Shan to take the initiative to defend, and was suppressed by him. When the surrounding people saw the power of Chu Xiu's attack, their expressions also changed slightly. The Longhu list had already spread throughout the pugilistic world, and everyone knew that a young assassin had actually appeared in the Heavenly Sin branch. Previously, some of them were still discussing whether this person was ranked in the top 20 when he just stepped into the Longhu list, and even pushed by Wuji from the northern fluttering snow city down. Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? However, after seeing him fight with Zen Master Heng Shan today, everyone knew that Chu Xiu's ranking on the Longhu list was not high, but rather low. It was not unheard of for an internal invulnerability expert to defeat a physical invulnerability expert, or even kill a physical invulnerability expert. However, it also depended on the target. Zen Master Heng Shan, who was considered famous in the pugilistic world of East Yen, was actually suppressed by an internal invulnerability realm martial artist. This was a little too exaggerated. Being in the middle of Chu Xiu's knife, Zen Master Heng Shan's face was gloomy. At this moment, he finally understood why this person in front of him could become a level 5 assassin of the Blue Dragon Society at the internal invulnerability realm. He was indeed very difficult to deal with. When the other party attacked, the explosive power was shocking. Even if he was at his peak, he still had to be cautious. What was more troublesome was the evil martial arts that the other party had used previously. The scorching power was constantly eroding his meridians, causing Zen Master Heng Shan to be unable to unleash his greatest power, and was even suppressed by the other party. Having figured this out, Zen Master Heng Shan decided not to suppress the power of the heaven-extinguishing and earth-destroying hand of the Great Purple Yang Sunday, changing the stance of his fists. Golden Gang Qi shone like Buddha's light, condensing on his fists and striking at Chu Xiu. Zen Master Heng Shan cultivated the Great Vajra Exorcism Fist. The fist's momentum was incomparably fierce, and the power that erupted in this instant completely disrupted Chu Xiu's knife momentum. The Great Vajra Exorcism Fist, which was shining with Golden Gang Qi, passed through the endless blood-colored knife aura, and blasted at Chu Xiu's chest. At that moment, Chu Xiu's eyes suddenly flashed with a black color. It was pure black, the black that belonged to hell. Even the crimson blade of the red sleeve knife had been stained with a misty black aura. When the knife slashed down, one would fall into the endless hell. 3 cuts of Avicii. This terrifying saber strike directly shattered Zen Master Heng Shan's protective upstanding qi. Sensing the astonishing chill, Zen Master Heng Shan's fist posture changed. His hands turned into palms and directly caught the saber strike. It was as if he was putting his palms together to perform a Buddhist ritual, directly catching Chu Xiu's saber strike between his hands. Suppress. An angry roar came suddenly. The Golden Gang Qi in Zen Master Heng Shan's hands surged, and the black aura on the red sleeve knife was shaken away. The voice was even more like a great bell, resounding in Chu Xiu's mind, making him feel dizzy and like vomiting blood. Lion's Roar, Tremor Formula. In the past, Zen Master Heng Shan once went to the Great Light Temple to talk about Zen and Tao. He learned the tremor character formula of the Lion's Roar from the Great Light Temple. If an ordinary person was shaken by the lion's roar, their eardrums would be shattered, their 7 orifices would bleed, and they would even be completely stunned. Seeing that Chu Xiu had temporarily lost his consciousness, Zen Master Heng Shan directly swung the red sleeve knife in his hand to the side, and his palm that was shining with a golden glow was aimed at Chu Xiu's heart. The Great Light Temple's 9 transformation lion's roar had a total of 9 transformations. Although Zen Master Heng Shan had only been taught a little bit of it, its power was indeed very extraordinary. However, because Chu Xiu had cultivated the soul-shifting technique of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth, his own mental strength was also extremely strong. Under the power of the tremor character formula of the lion's roar, he only lost his consciousness for a moment before he completely regained his consciousness. Facing Zen Master Heng Shan's palm, Chu Xiu once again used the great violet sun hand of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth to counter it. When the palm landed, Chu Xiu was directly blasted away. His left arm was twisted and looked to be broken. However, at this moment, Zen Master Heng Shan's expression suddenly changed. His face turned pale, and he could not help but let out a muffled groan as cold sweat flowed down his forehead. The power of the great violet sun hand of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth was originally not that easy to suppress and expel. He could suppress the power of 1 layer of the purple sun demonic flame, but what about 2 layers? Even with his cultivation, he could not endure the powerful power that burned his meridians and internal organs, and he let out a muffled groan. At this moment, the surrounding people saw that Chu Xiu could actually fight with Zen Master Heng Shan to such an extent, and they were also shocked. Although this Chu Xiu was known as an internal invulnerability expert, in reality, he already had the strength to fight against a physical invulnerability expert. Only a physical invulnerability expert like Zen Master Heng Shan, who was not weak, could injure him to such an extent. In the end, he also suffered internal injuries. If it were an ordinary physical invulnerability expert, he probably would not be able to gain any advantage in front of this Chu Xiu. Xiang Weiyang, who was standing at the side, looked at Chu Xiu with an even more horrified gaze. He was also a saber user, and the terrifying saber strike by Chu Xiu just now left a deep impression on him. That hatred that seemed to have emerged from hell was the pinnacle of negative emotions in the world. It was a standard demonic saber, the type that hurt others while hurting oneself. In the end, this person was still able to maintain his consciousness after using this saber. It was either because he had a secret treasure on him, or because of Chu Xiu's shocking willpower. At this moment, in the field, black gas lingered in Chu Xiu's eyes. Usually, when he used the 3 blades of Avicii, he would usually begin to suppress the backlash of the saber intent after using it once. However, at this time, Chu Xiu did not suppress the backlash. Instead, the black gas in his eyes became thicker. The power from the Avicii hell coiled around the blade of Chu Xiu, and even along the blade, it wrapped around his intact right arm. At this moment, the aura on Chu Xiu's body was like that of a devil from hell. Even his eyes had become extremely cold, and there were no longer any emotions that a human should have. When this terrifying saber fell, it was as if it had been slashed out from hell, causing Zen Master Heng Shan to suddenly widen his eyes. As a member of the Buddhist sect, when he was young, he had killed many demonic evildoers to enforce justice on behalf of heaven. However, as he gradually grew older, he needed to nourish his qi and blood to preserve his strength, which was why he did not act as frequently as he did when he was young. However, Chu Xiu's saber in front of him showed him what a real demonic saber was. He cultivated the great Vajra subduing demon fist. Vajra could subdue demons, but it could not subdue the second saber from the Avicii hell. Open! Zen Master Heng Shan shouted angrily. He could not care less about suppressing the purple sun devil flame that was burning his meridians in his body. His hands formed a seal, and endless golden gang energy erupted. Like a demon-subduing pestle, it suddenly smashed down on Chu Xiu's saber. Vajra subduing demons, overcoming adversity to become Buddha. The golden gang energy collided with the black blade, but what erupted was a bloody desolation. The gang energy exploded, and the blade fell to the ground. Zen Master Heng Shan was directly cut in half by Chu Xiu's saber from top to bottom. Chapter 119. The power of the devil's saber was beyond everyone's expectation. No one expected that Zen Master Heng Shan of Jinguang Temple, who was considered famous in East Yen, would die in the hands of an inner gang realm martial artist. And it was ironic. Zen Master Heng Shan spent half his life killing demons, but in the end, he died under such a strange demonic blade. He was cut into two by the second blade of the Avici Dao 3 blades. Blood and internal organs covered the ground. This could not be considered a complete corpse. At this moment, Chu Xiu's appearance was even more frightening. Black fog was wrapped around his blade, his hand, and his eyes. Chu Xiu's hand that was holding the blade was trembling non-stop. If anyone were to look at Chu Xiu's eyes now, they would only see an ice-cold darkness like the abyss of hell, making people shudder. Now that Chu Xiu was wearing a mask, no one noticed. But in fact, Chu Xiu's face was already distorted beyond belief. The backlash of the first blade of the Avici Dao 3 blades could be easily suppressed by Chu Xiu's current strength. But the backlash of the second blade was more than twice as strong as the first blade. With Chu Xiu's current strength, he had to use his strongest willpower to coordinate with the glazed golden thread Gu's power to dissipate the black gas in his eyes. Even the black gas on his red sleeve blade also dissipated. After completely suppressing the backlash of the Avici Dao 3 blades, Chu Xiu heaved a sigh of relief. Using 2 blades consecutively was already Chu Xiu's limit. Now, if Chu Xiu dared to use the third blade and use the complete Avici Dao 3 blades, even the glazed golden thread Gu would not be able to save Chu Xiu. While Chu Xiu was exchanging blows with Zen Master Heng Shan, Yan Bugui and Tangya had also achieved some results. Previously, Chu Xiu had asked Fire Slave who was stronger, Yan Bugui or Tangya. At that time, the Fire Slave had said that Yan Bugui should be slightly stronger, but he could not figure out Tangya's background. He always felt that Tangya was hiding something, and what he had shown now was not his true strength. But when it came to Yan Bugui, everyone in the Heavenly Sin branch knew how crazy he could be when he fought, even though he seemed to be a man of few words. Yan Bugui's nickname was Broken Sword. He usually carried a heavy sword on his back, which was wrapped in coarse cloth. Judging from its shape, it should be more complete. But now that Yan Bugui had unsheathed his heavy sword, Chu Xiu realized that his sword was really a broken sword. There were obvious cracks on the heavy sword, but it seemed to have been repaired later. However, a broken sword was a broken sword, it could not be compared with a fully formed weapon. Therefore, it could be considered as a broken sword. Yan Bugui's sword technique was very strange. In fact, from Chu Xiu's point of view, it couldn't even be called a sword technique. The heavy sword in his hand was simply like a heavy hammer, an incomparably powerful heavy weapon. On top of that, the inner force that he cultivated was incomparably mystical. He could actually make the heavy sword in his hand become even more powerful and heavy. When he swung his sword over, other than the martial monks of the Great Light Temple who had incomparably great strength, there were almost no ordinary warriors who could block his sword. Therefore, when Chu Xiu was fighting with Zen Master Heng Shan, Yan Bugui had already used his sword aura to blow a martial artist away. Then, he seized the opportunity and swung his huge sword down. That's right, it was not a slash, but a slap. The crowd could only hear a loud explosion, and in an instant, a mist of blood swirled in the air. One of the spirit sword sect's martial artists was actually directly smashed into a meat paste by his heavy sword, completely out of shape. This scene was much more terrifying than Chu Xiu chopping someone into two. Not to mention these martial artists, even the other Blue Dragon Society assassins had a look of awe and fear on their faces. The missions that Yan Bugui carried out were one after another, and none of them were able to leave a complete corpse. There were even times when the employer required the target's head. At that time, Yan Bugui would only pay a little attention and smack the target's body into meat paste, before bringing the head to the employer. Therefore, compared to Yan Bugui, although Chu Xiu was ruthless, he was not as vicious as Yan Bugui. While Yan Bugui had a harvest, Tang Ye's side was not bad either. To be honest, even Chu Xiu could not understand Tang Ye's martial arts. Tang Ye's footwork was very fast and extremely flexible. The other party must have cultivated some kind of speed footwork. Moreover, the weapon that he used was the short knife that Chu Xiu used before. It was not even as long as an arm, and it was exceptionally sinister and ruthless. He didn't use any powerful martial arts, but Tang Ye was proficient in many methods, including fist, palm, finger, and so on. However, they were not too strong. When he fought against Yao Nanxian and that spirit sword sect's martial artist, Tang Ye was always slippery. Although it seemed dangerous to fight one against two, he always managed to escape at the most critical moment, and while at the same time, launched a sneak attack on these two people. His moves were steady, accurate, and ruthless. Therefore, in the end, Yao Nanxian and that spirit sword sect's disciple were already covered with injuries. On the other hand, Tang Ye basically had no injuries. And just now, when Yao Nanxian saw Zen Master Heng Shan being chopped into two by Chu Xiu's knife, he could not help but cry out in grief, "Monk!" He and Zen Master Heng Shan have been friends for decades, and the two of them could be said to be friends through life and death. Otherwise, Zen Master Heng Shan would not have come to witness his washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. As a result, because of him, Zen Master Heng Shan died here. This made Yao Nanxian unable to help but feel sad. His mind was affected, and even his sword momentum was a bit messed up. At this time, Tang Ye's eyes revealed a touch of thick murderous intention. His hand moved, and two strange hidden weapons have already broken through the air. The people present could only hear the sound of breaking through the air, but they didn't even see what those hidden weapons looked like. Yao Nanxian and the other spirit sword sect's disciples subconsciously raised their swords to resist. After two clanging sounds, the two of them simultaneously retreated. However, at this time, Tang Ye's figure directly arrived in front of Yao Nanxian. His hands were like afterimages, and his fingers were fierce and swift. The sky was filled with finger shadows along with the explosion of the aura shield, which blasted Yao Nanxian back step by step and directly broke the opponent's protective true qi. Moreover, no one knew when, but the knife in his hand had once again appeared in his hand. Like a maggot attached to a bone, he slashed at Yao Nanxian's neck. Suddenly, a line of blood appeared, and his figure immediately retreated to meet the other spirit sword sect's martial artist. Yao Nanxian couldn't believe it as he covered his throat. Blood continued to spurt out, and his consciousness gradually disappeared along with the flow of blood. He wanted to quit Jianghu, but Yao Nanxian never thought that the day he quit Jianghu would be the day of his death. Even before his death, he couldn't figure out who wanted to kill him. Although he died in the hands of the Blue Dragon Society, the Blue Dragon Society was just a sword to kill him. The person who really wanted to kill him had always been hiding behind the scenes. Besides the Heavenly Sin Branch leader, even Chu Xiu and the others didn't know about it. This Yao Nanxian was still a muddle-headed ghost until his death. Chu Xiu looked at Yao Nanxian's body in silence. Yao Nanxian's death meant that the task was already half completed. He didn't need to care about the other onlookers. When Yao Nanxian was still alive, they didn't stand up for him, so after his death, they would definitely not stand up for him. Speaking of which, Yao Nanxian's death was somewhat unjust. Chu Xiu dared to guarantee that if he didn't intend to quit Jianghu and stayed in the Spirit Sword sect as the Great Elder, absolutely no one would dare to kill him. The person who asked the Blue Dragon Society to kill Yao Nanxian certainly had a life and death enmity with Yao Nanxian, but why didn't he do it earlier? Either his strength was not enough, or his financial resources were not enough. Asking the Blue Dragon Society to kill an old guy who was about to retire and killing an elder of the Spirit Sword sect in the Eastern Yan dynasty were two completely different concepts. The former was a level 6 task, so Chu Xiu and the others could solve it without the Heavenly Sin Branch leader's help. The tea cools when the person is gone. How many people would be willing to risk their lives to help an old guy who was about to retire from Jianghu? There were so many martial artists present, but in the end, less than 1/10 of them came forward. If it was the latter, then the Blue Dragon Society would have to face the entire Spirit Sword sect. Although the relationship between the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Lin Feiyu, and Yao Nanxian didn't seem to be very good, no matter how bad it was, Yao Nanxian was still a disciple of the Spirit Sword sect, so Lin Feiyu couldn't just watch his own elder be killed in front of him. Moreover, if he wanted to deal with the entire Spirit Sword sect, even the Heavenly Sin Branch leader would have a hard time. It was said that the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Frost Moon Small Sword Lin Feiyu, was only one step away from reaching the realm of one with the heaven, which was not much worse than the Heavenly Sin Branch leader. Moreover, the Spirit Sword sect still had the array formation and other things left behind by its ancestors. It was still unknown whether the entire Heavenly Sin Branch leader could destroy the Spirit Sword sect. Even if Yao Nanxian's enemy could come up with such terrifying financial resources, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader might not necessarily accept this task. Therefore, Yao Nanxian's so-called withdrawal from Jianghu was actually courting death. He wanted to settle his own grievances, but the problem was that other people didn't want to settle it. At this time, Chu Xiu didn't intervene in the fight because the overall situation was already decided. After Tang Ye and Yan Bugui dealt with all of their opponents, the entire Yao family village's martial artists were almost massacred by them. The remaining people had already fled, and the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were too lazy to chase after them. Although the number of Yao family village's martial artists was more than 10 times that of the Blue Dragon Society's assassins, compared to these Blue Dragon Society's assassins, the Yao family village's disciples were obviously not worth mentioning. It was almost a one-sided massacre. Seeing that the task had been completed, Chu Xiu waved his hand. The people of the Blue Dragon Society immediately turned around and left. No one dared to stop them. Looking at the Yao family village that was covered in blood, the people present suddenly looked at each other in dismay. This was the first time that someone had tried to wash their hands in a golden basin and ended up destroying their own family. At this time, everyone couldn't help but think of the words that Chu Xiu said. The world is like the tide, and people are like the water. Only a few people in Jianghu can return. It was easy to step into this Jianghu, but it was not so easy to leave. Some of the people present had even seen how impressive Yao Nanxian's golden basin washing ceremony was and wondered if they should do the same when they were old. However, after seeing this scene, they immediately dispelled that idea. You're tuning in to the UnparalleledSwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.